come si fa? Perché io sto pensando di fare la classe online con la Jennifer su Zoom.
Dipende. Devi prima ovviamente avere
la app.
Non sento niente.
Io l'altra volta te l'avevo fatto io il volume. Beh, ma probabilmente non sto ancora parlando.
No, sta ancora parlando.
Sta già parlando?
No, guarda, addirittura il microfono spento.
Ok, allora sistemiamoci. Tu sistemati con il...
Oh wait, I'm muted. Am I unmuted now? Can people hear me? You can hear me. Okay, we're going to give it a couple more minutes because I know people pull in a little late. So okay, wait, I'm just going to forward one thing to the New York Center while we're waiting. Okay. So just before we start looking at the names of the people popping on, just in general, and if people want to unmute at some point, how is everybody doing? Some thumbs up? Thumbs up? Good. Anybody not thumbs up? Some of you are, oh, you're not. What's happening? What's happening, my dear? Can you unmute? Martha?
Yes, hi, everybody. Well, it was kind of sad today. I went to see my daughter, and it's hard to just don't get close to the people that you really love. So it was like kind of a realization that we are like
Yes.
together, but not together. And also I saw a lot of people out. So, you know,
Yes.
they are not listening. So it's hard for us that have to work from home, that have, I have elderly mother, father, and sister, and people don't listen. So that kind of brought me a little bit down today.
That is hard. That is hard. I mean, Florida, they're saying could be a little bit of a hot area there because people aren't necessarily being warned to stay in and things like that. So again, there's only so much you can do. So you do what you can do, set an example. And, you know, I was out walking and I noticed if somebody starts to come close to me, then I just kind of move back and then they realize, and then they go, oh, right. People forget. And then they go, oh, thank you for remembering. And I've seen a number of people doing that. So we do the best we can of taking care of our minds and then doing what we can externally to remind people maybe it's better to stay home. I mean, I may have mentioned this the other day, my niece and I, she's in her late 20s, she was gonna come for a sleepover because she's alone and she's a little bit lonely. And this was a few days ago. So we discussed it and I felt from my side, I said, I don't really think we should do that. Like we're kind of being warned to stay in and because there's somebody she's come in contact with and we don't know, they seem healthy, but so I just kind of from my side said, look, let's not do it. And we'll do some face calls. And she was fine. You know, she didn't mind that at all. It's hard because it'd be fun to be together but it's impermanent, right? So this too shall pass. And it may take a little while, a little longer than we think, but I was gonna add a little longer than our president thinks, perhaps, right? So, but you know, this is a great practice in patience, compassion. I was on a forum today for an hour and a half with the Foundation for Developing Compassion and Wisdom, the kind of universal education courses. And I think there were like 30 of us on this Zoom call about the 16 guidelines. And it was more in relation to climate change, but it was also basically, you couldn't separate it from what's happening now because this could be what's happening. And it was very interesting to look at the 16 guidelines and see which ones people picked as far as what example you'd like to be. You know, would it be patience, that's what you're really practicing, what's what you're needing now? Is it humility? Because we're all in this together. Could it be, for some people picked honesty, that they wanted to be honest about their fears or how they were actually living. And, oh, Brian, I'm so glad when you popped on. I didn't see you the other day, so I'm glad you made it. And you know, I happen to pick service. That was my guideline right now, my 16 guideline, because I just feel like I'd like to be a vessel because a lot of people are in need. And I'm so glad that through forums like this, we can get together. And I'm just looking at some of these people. Beth Barnt, unbelievable that you have turned up. Somebody I met in Vermont. So I'm so grateful that we can be here together because it's interesting. There's a lot of people from different parts of my life that have seen this through different people sharing. And I'm so grateful that we can connect like this regardless of where we are. So one thing I wanted to mention, and then we're going to start with a motivation talking about karma this evening, is the New York Center is interested in, and we may do more things also hosted by Thupten Khunga. We do have this weekend as well. And Venerable Tendrin is on Thursday night, I believe, with the Mind and Its Potential. So if this is helpful for people, we can continue to meet, and it would be good to feed back maybe to Thupten Khunga, or even tonight we could talk a little bit what is most helpful, what kind of format and topics. And in New York, what I really wanted to do was have some forum to do the practices Rinpoche and His Holiness have recommended, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So they basically, I've timed them, and they really are like 30 minutes. You can really do most of those practices in 30 minutes. So some of you are home now, not working, and some of you are home not working, not by your choice, and that can be stressful. But a number of people are coming to me and calling me and texting and just saying they're bored and you know, they're lonely, and this is what we can do then is our practice. So this is a fantastic time to actually ramp up your practice. And not only that, but that begins to be a habit and a new coping mechanism for you. So I have to say, honestly, it's bringing the ground under my feet to be able to do more practice, also to be able to serve in this way. And these practices take about 30 minutes. So we're setting up right now 2 sessions starting this Saturday after the Thupten Kunga course from 10 to noon after, but Saturday and Wednesday, 1 to 1:30 every afternoon. And if you want to tune in, I think they're going to have a link. You can check with their website, Shantideva. It'll be connected to my website as well. But Shantideva Center, if you search on that, and actually I'll put it in a little chat right now, and let me put their website up. They don't have it up yet. It's going to take a few days. But if you want to check and do this practice, and the neat thing, Shantideva NYC, okay. See if I can put this up here. Okay, there's their website. Now, again, it's not ready yet, but there should be something about practice. You can see all of their programs are Zooming as well. So if there's something interesting you see, this is a half an hour, it's free. And they'll host it, but I think you just have to click on a link. Obviously, you've all got Zoom now. Thank you for that. Wonderful, it's easy. And then what we're gonna do is they're gonna send out, and if you don't get their emails, you can contact them, but you've gotten some FPMT emails that Thupten Kunga Center may have of all the different practices that Rinpoche recommends. And they're super easy to just click on them and they open up. The practice opens up on your computer. So it can't get any easier than that. You can save it on your computer. I made a little file that under my prayers and practices section of my files and my documents, there's a COVID-19 folder now, and I just go right there and all the practices are there. I put them in order of what Rinpoche recommended. So if not, we're going to try to make them available during the chat, just like this, where we'll say, here's this practice, here's that one, put it up. And then you can click and either just listen, but it's more powerful if we do it together. And Rinpoche really says group practice is very powerful to do. And this is what he is recommending. We have a short practice, some Tara mantras from His Holiness. I can't really stress it enough. So this is what we're all one family. And that's what's so great about the FPMT and the fact those of us that have internet can connect in this way. And I think it really puts that buoyant cushion again under ourselves it really helps me stay calm during this time. So I really hope if you're interested to participate, because Rinpoche is saying these practices, a few of them are good for you. They prevent you from getting ill. They also work for any illness at all. They're enormously powerful. Some of them I've been doing for a long time. And then some of them are for the planet. So we're going to do at the very end, we're going to do a very easy one that I'm just going to read, but it's basically reciting some of the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra of the Buddha of compassion. Most people know that mantra. It's super easy. And then there's some verses, and that's one of the practices. So each of the practices is relatively short, separate from the very first mantra is the longest part of it. And that's one that people can recite as much as they would like. So I just wanted to call your attention to that, and look forward to also some of the Sunday programs that I'm doing this weekend. So thank you so much for participating. Let's get started. And so let's just take a moment in considering our purpose for being together right now and for wanting to explore karma. And can it be a benefit for us to understand how our actions take effect as much as we're able to understand that, so that we can start curtailing some negative behavior patterns and start enhancing the positive ones that will result in our happiness, that will really benefit our practices, helping us to reach that fully enlightened state as quickly as possible, because so many are suffering right now and need our help. So for the benefit of all living beings right now, in the hopes that this virus will stop its spread as quickly as possible, and that it will minimize right now any additional deaths, for the benefit of all living beings in that way as well, let's talk about karma. Thank you. And so good to see Ken from our pilgrimage. And so, yeah, it's lovely to see all of you. Also, our Laudo pilgrimage is postponed this year, obviously. And, you know, I'm disappointed, and yet, what can I do? You know, what can I do? It's out of my hands, and I just felt I didn't want to wait any longer to let people know. So people have been great. They're like, no, we're going to go next year. So we're looking at April 2021. So if you couldn't go this year, you now have a year to save up. Nicole. But if you're interested, we are going to hope, again, who knows what's happening, but we are going to hope that we could get there, that hopefully it would be safe enough to go. And what I have heard in Nepal, Rinpoche's there in Nepal, fortunately really being alone so he doesn't get this virus. And apparently Roger was in touch with me, his attendant was in touch with me today, that 1.5 million Nepalis have left Kathmandu and gone back to their villages because the entire city is shut down. And, you know, if we're concerned about our own communities and the business things, it's very difficult right now for a lot of people. However, in a country like Nepal that's already teetering, being very poor, but the problem is this is their big tourist season. This is when they make a lot of money. So for them to once again get slammed right in the middle of their tourist season, it just, you know, they can never seem to get a foot up. So that's the situation now, just to check in with some other countries. So they're not having a rampant arisal of the illness yet. But if it does get in there, they have less resources than we do to deal with it. So we can also send some good wishes out to them that we'll do in the end when we recite some of the Om Mani Padme Hum, the Mani's mantras. So let's talk about karma right now. And I know a number of you are familiar, and we've done some karma courses as well. But this is a way to look at, we are experiencing right now some very interesting collective karma. By the entire planet is having to rearrange its priorities and agendas. And it means different things, obviously, in different countries, for wealthier countries, poorer countries, and probably due to airfare, airline travel, meaning the affluent countries seem to really get hit with this quite hard right now because we travel a lot. And I even noticed just areas of the United States and even the state of New Jersey that's having a very difficult time, but the northern part's having a harder time because they're closer to New York. So many more people having gone in and out of New York, where South Jersey, which is more connected to Philadelphia, where I live, is somehow having less of an issue, because I've also found a lot of Philadelphians seem to travel less than some people in the New York area and the Washington, D.C. area or California like that. And so we're on a lockdown right now, Philadelphia and its surrounding counties, that includes me. So we are on, only essential going out like that. You can go out to walk and exercise, but we've been on a little bit of a mandatory stay at home things like a few other states. So we have this collective karma, and you may wonder, what's the cause of this? Rinpoche has an interesting video that some of you may have seen recently and talks about in a degenerate time. The Buddha's teachings talk about this being a degenerate time. And what that means is that there seems to be a decline in interest in the Dharma, a decline in people practicing. And as a result, there's different natural disasters that arise and illnesses and things like this. So climate change is another sign, another symbol of a degenerate time. And so I think part of our thing, and this is something we talked about today in the forum on climate change, was what can you personally do that you feel might be helpful to lead us in a positive direction forward? And I would say not only for the virus, but in relation to climate change as well. And what do you feel you could do on a little broader scale like that? So for me, for instance, part of my thing is maintaining my practice to a certain level, trying to get some retreats in when I can. And then I have my own little personal circle of, I'm really kind of stringent about bringing my bags to the supermarket because I just don't want to use any more paper or plastic. If I can, I tend to try to not buy the, what do you call them? The lettuce, the pre-washed lettuce in the big plastic containers, as opposed to buying just the lettuce and going home and washing it myself, because all those plastic containers add up. And I lead a pretty simple life, but think about how much of that do you use, those kind of things that are already in those prepackaged, harder plastic containers. And we all have our own things. So for me, those are things that I just try to do on a day-to-day level that are small, and then maybe general kindness when I'm in the shops, kindness in general, how I'm dealing with people, and then bigger and bigger, and it grows. So for instance, there's some of you supporting your local center right now, which is amazing. The centers are struggling. So there's some of you that are on a bigger scale. There's probably somebody not here tonight, possibly because she's working as a healthcare worker. There's some of you that are doing that you're still out there in the middle of it. So it's significant of how we bump up against others. And so you might look at, can I adjust something in my own personal life? And then what in a larger scale could I adjust when we go back to work? There will be a time, I believe, we go back to work. I just saw some news about China, like, they're moving around again in China. Like, it's obviously able to do that after 2 months. 2 months, when you look at the grand scheme, is not the longest of times. So suddenly there they were at the epicenter, and now the virus seems to be reducing. So how will this impact you going forward? And I think that's pretty significant. And somebody in our forum said, people just want things to go back to normal. And then I wrote a chat saying, I think there's going to be a new normal, once again, like post 9/11. So what's your new normal going to be? What would you like it to be that you feel is positive going forward? So I think that really relates to what we're talking about tonight. So what I want to go through are some of the things that we can know about karma. And karma, for one, is a Sanskrit word that simply means action. It's the movement of mind. Again, it means action, and it's the movement of mind. So everything that you think, do, or say, and this is from Tibetan Buddhism, will have a result in the future. Tibetan Buddhism comes from a belief system that everything comes from the mind. There's nobody outside of you dictating how your life will be. So everything, again, you think, say, or do leaves an imprint in your consciousness. Okay, and that imprint will ripen in the future in either happiness or suffering for you, or a neutral experience that we're often encountering. And so how does the actual imprinting happen? I don't know. You'd have to have a highly realized mind to know that. So karma is very intricate. It's very sophisticated, okay? Which is why you need a highly realized mind to really understand the ripening effects, how it manifests like that. What we can know at our level is basic characteristics, and there are 4 basic characteristics of karma. I think several of you are familiar with these, okay? So the first characteristic of karma is that karma is definite. Karma is definite, and that means that if you do think or say something positive, you definitely get a result of happiness for you in the future. And if you do think or say something negative, you will definitely get a suffering result for you in the future. Karma is definite. Like they say, you plant an apple seed, you definitely get an apple tree. You don't get an oak tree from an apple seed. So positive imprints you're making, positive activities create happiness, negative activities create suffering. Second characteristic, karma increases. So the effects are bigger than the cause. They grow over time of positive and negative karma, okay? The way you can destroy positive karma before it increases is you can get tremendously angry or suffer from a very strong delusion, and that tends to destroy merit or any positive results. If you've created a lot of negative imprints, you can purify those before they ripen. So that's a way we can affect negative imprints that are made before they ripen in suffering for us. But karma increases. That's the second principle. The third principle is the actions not done are not experienced. So you will not experience the results of somebody else's actions, and they do not experience the results of the activities of your body, speech, and mind, like that. So you can't blame somebody who's in the plane next to you and the plane is crashing and it's their fault. You also have karmic imprints in your consciousness to experience a plane crash, like that. The last one is actions done are never wasted. So meaning over time, the karmic results will manifest. They will come to fruition over time. Obviously, it can be changed once again, provided as if you have a heavy delusion to destroy positive deeds, or if you do effective purification to destroy and minimize negative deeds. Okay, so it's really helpful. I think there's a value of understanding the general characteristics of karma to consider, especially if we haven't committed a certain action, we will not meet the result. And if we have committed an action, it won't go to waste without yielding some result. And so with this understanding of these general aspects of karma, okay, we really want to engage in a consistent, rich Dharma practice by avoiding actions that damage our positive imprints, okay? And by, if we can, immediately purifying anything non-virtuous that we do. And then you try to live your life according to that way. So let's look a little bit of how they ripen and how, and we also know, we've talked about this a lot. What we do, once we hear about these characteristics, some people that have done a lot of negative things tend to have a little emergency suddenly. And I'll give you an example, is I killed a lot of insects as a kid. And that's how I was taught, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. And in fact, when my parents would ask me to like clean out the porch for the spring with the vacuum, I took great glee, but I was also doing it to obey my parents. So that was just how I was taught. I didn't know that killing insects was necessarily negative, and some people don't see it that way. So when I came in contact with Buddhist teachings and heard that they value all sentient beings, meaning all beings with a consciousness, that also includes insects. And that kind of alarmed me because I'd killed so many insects with great glee. Okay, so again, you have to start where you are. To quote the book title from Pema Chodron, start where you are. Now that you know, then you can make a decision how you want to act. So then we start to wonder, what are the guidelines by which I'd like to live by? And we have what we call avoiding the 10 non-virtues and practicing living by the 10 virtues or virtuous conduct. I like to sometimes call them living by the 10 ethical guidelines. So let's look at these. Many of you are familiar with these. There are 3 that are associated with things that you do with your body. 4 of them are things we would avoid with our speech. And 3 of them are activities we would avoid doing with our mind as far as the non-virtues. So let's look at them in order. The first non-virtue, the 3 that are related to things we do with our body are we avoid killing, we avoid stealing, and we avoid sexual misconduct. Those are the 3 we would avoid with our body. So killing we're pretty familiar with. I don't think anybody on this call would consider killing a human being or directly kill an animal like that. But some people do kill insects, and insects are included in that formula. So the ethical guideline would be taking care of life and trying to save life if you can. So we talk about animal liberation. Many of you have heard of that. We have practices around that. So the question can be, how much do I want to take care of the ants that are crawling through my kitchen right now? How much do I want to deal with those? And, what do I want to do with the wasp infestation that I have in my house, which I happen to have in the house last summer from a wasp nest that was built that must have gotten into the eaves or the siding of the house or something. So again, it's a personal decision, what you'd like to do. And I have to say, having killed a lot of insects, again, this is an experimentation for your mind. And that's what this path is about, why I like it so much, is it's you and your mind, and you have to explore and try on some of the teachings to see how it works for you. So an example is when I got the teachings many years ago at Kopan, and I left Kopan, went to a little guest house in Kathmandu. And of course, in Kathmandu, there were many insects, and there were many insects in my room. And it was a very low-end little guest house type of thing. And I thought about this, not killing insects. So I decided to try that for a day, one day. And I assessed at the end of the day, it took a little bit more patience. So I assessed, isn't that interesting, that by avoiding killing insects and trying to escort them out the room without killing them, I could get a cup and I could catch the insect and slide a card under it, and then I could relocate the insect. But all of that, it was interesting because that helped me develop some patience. So that was an interesting byproduct. And insects do help you develop patience. Really living by ethical guidelines helps you develop patience. So slowly, so after the end of the day, I actually noticed that I felt better having let the spider live and let the other things live. I thought their lives, they have their lives too, like I have my life. And so I decided to continue it for a second day, not killing insects, and a third day, and a week went by, and another week, and I never stopped doing it. And then it became an imprint. So now it's, anytime I see an insect, I have this automatic feeling, an automatic action to try to, if I don't want it in my space, let me get a cup. And that's an automatic thing that I do, rather than people that automatically outside with mosquitoes and just swat them and mush them on you like that. So again, individual decision, what you want to do. You can decide like that. So so taking care of life, okay? The second one, avoiding stealing. We are not going to go out and steal a car. I think that's unlikely for the people participating, but think about the things that you do borrow without asking. And what kind of things do you take that have not been offered to you? So sometimes you're staying at a friend's and you're in their bathroom and you need something and you start looking around in the closet or in the drawer of the bathroom, but they haven't offered. You might say, but they would let me have it anyway. They would lend it. Then ask them, because you create a little tainted karma there in your mind if you just take the object. You're staying at someone, you just go in the refrigerator. So a nice thing, a nice practice to get to is when people come to stay with me, I just like open my hands and say, great, whatever you like here, if you need anything, bathroom, kitchen, whatever it is, drawers of the house, help yourself to anything. So then they don't get into anything. If they borrowed something, it's offered. It's already offered. So think about those things, because we also steal time from our employer by lying on timesheets, by making long personal phone calls when we're supposed to be working. We occasionally may have gone to a restaurant and ordered a meal and then noticed when the bill came that they left something off the menu, that we ordered, and we ate it and enjoyed it. And if you don't say something to the wait person and pay your bill and leave, you know, it's technically stealing like that. So these are all the little areas that we get into trouble like that. So those are the kind of things. The ethical guideline would be taking care of your belongings and the belongings of others, particularly anytime you borrow something from someone or are using something of someone else's. The third one we avoid, the third non-virtue we would avoid, is sexual misconduct. And this relates to adultery for the most part. And the thing is, if you know and you're not going to kill your partner, and it really involves when you insert yourself between two people, and especially intimately, and then they break up as a result of that interference, you know, or you yourself engage with someone else and you're already in a monogamous relationship like that, and you start, but here's slight examples of sexual misconduct. You're you know, lying to your partner about somebody that you're interested in, and you meet with this other person occasionally for a cup of coffee. You're kind of dangling that seduction there, and you're lying to your partner about it. There's nothing between us. Or you say that you didn't meet somebody while you're late coming home. Another thing can be if your partner, if it really upsets them that you flirt sometimes when you're out with them, or you're at a party, or out with dinner, and you know that really upsets them, flirting then, especially around them, would be a slight episode or activity of sexual misconduct. So those are the kind of ways we would get in trouble. The nice ethical guideline would be taking care of your relationships, honoring them, especially your intimate relationships, and having healthy relationships, especially the intimate ones, and respecting those of others. Then we have 4 non-virtues related to our speech, and they are in order of heaviness. They're in order of heaviness. The first one is we avoid lying. We avoid lying, and we would, obviously the ethical guideline is speaking the truth. So lying does include over-elaboration, exaggeration, are examples, slighter degrees of lying. So it's nice to get honest with yourself, and somebody in our forum today talked about honesty was their guideline that they were living on, and they felt that honesty for them was not what was the word they said, buying into the hysteria and the panic. They said they just wanted to remain calm. That was their honest expression of what was happening, and they found that their practice motivated that, and from that place they could offer a more balanced perspective that was their truth, in a sense, living their truth. So So, but if you're speaking honestly, we know that fine line. Now, it's very different if you're telling what we would call a white lie. And I would say often white lies come with very, very good motivations. So again, we're going to get into the ripening effects of karma in a little bit. And the issue with a white lie is we have a lot of mixed karmas. We have a lot of mixed karmas. And that means I had a really, really good motivation, but I still lied. You know, I told a lie to my father when he was dying in last summer, so that he would not be agitated. And I thought about it right before I did it. And then I went, you know, he's going to be really upset. And I'm just going to kind of make some peace here with this, you know, and that was my decision. Was there some lying involved, a negative imprint that goes into my consciousness? Yes, I believe there was. I can't say specifically how it ripened or how it imprinted, but I took responsibility for it with my eyes opened and realized that the greater good for me was to tell the white lie. And it wasn't a big deal. And it, you know, and I actually, a couple people in the room later were saying to me, that was really skillful how you handled it. So I just think you have to weigh, but you have to understand that there can be negative ramifications even with a good motivation, but that definitely colors the outcome like that. So it's not a heavier negative karma than me blatantly lying to somebody in order to hurt them. It's very, very different. Okay. But we have a lot of those mixed things as well. Sometimes you have a really good intention and you totally muck it up and hurt somebody. Well, that happens as well. And sometimes I'm giving somebody a gift with a really, really bad intention. So, you know, I'm basically giving them a gift because of what they'll think about me, and they'll tell everybody how great I am. And that has a mixed karma as well, where it's not pure generosity of gaining that kind of karmic momentum from practicing pure generosity. So it's going to be a mixed karma as well. So the ethical guideline is obviously speaking the truth and being somewhat honest, like being honest. The second non-virtuous speech that we avoid is divisive speech. This is speech that tears people apart, separates people, causes schisms in communities and workplaces and families and households and communities. The ethical guideline would be saying things that bring people together. Saying things that bring people together. The third one we avoid with our speech is harsh speech. This is cursing at somebody, yelling at somebody, saying something to somebody in a very cruel way that sounds very cruel and mean. The ethical guideline would be saying genuine, pleasant things to people. Has to be genuine, like that. False flattery doesn't really qualify. You've got a mixed karma there because you're saying nice words, but you don't really mean it. So you also get into a bit of a lying issue there. And the last one of speech is actually the lightest one that we do, but the issue with gossip, we would avoid gossip or meaningless chatter, idle chatter. But the difficulty with this one is we do it all the time. We're overly familiar with rattling on. And an example is it's not just about saying negative things about people behind their back, as we say, but gossip could be, I'm going on and on and on about my favorite baseball team, and you have no interest whatsoever. And I need to tell you the plot of the film I just saw, and I need to tell you every detail about it, but you really don't have any interest. So that would be, those are types of gossip. And some people get very strict and say it's whenever we're not talking about the Dharma. They would say that constitutes meaningless chatter. However, I think we have to be reasonable and consider, with my family, they're not Buddhists. It doesn't really make sense to just be talking about the Dharma to them. So, but we can find many other meaningful things, helpful things to talk about. And what I tend to like to do is, before I open my mouth, to really think about what I'm going to say and will this be beneficial for the people I'm saying it to? Is there any point in my saying this? Like that. Those are the 4 related to speech. 3 are related to your mind, things you do with your mind. The first one is covetousness. Covetousness, or having a greedy attitude. The ethical guideline would be rejoicing at others' good fortune. Rejoicing at others' good fortune. The next one related to your mind is avoiding or harmful intent or malice. Harmful intent or malice. And the ethical guideline would be having an intention, a positive intention towards someone, wishing them well, in a sense like that. Wishing somebody well. Big-hearted experience of that. The last ethical guideline is avoiding wrong views. Avoiding wrong views. And the ethical guideline would be trying to obviously cultivate right views, but these views relate to different things, wrong views when we talk. So ultimately it relates to the wisdom realizing emptiness, the nature of reality. So the ultimate wrong view would be not having a direct perception of emptiness. Okay, so the ethical guideline would be trying to cultivate that. And that would be reading some books about emptiness, starting with the smaller books to the more detailed, going to classes where it's explained. There's many, many things online now. And for people that say to me that they're bored and they don't know what to do, you might have a couple of months, you can do a Dharma course. There's all kinds of stuff. You could get certified, get a certificate in a program probably in a couple of months or something. There's a lot of things online right now. And FPMT, we have our whole education system. There's some great courses right now that you could have the time, a couple hours a day, do the readings, do the exercises. Fantastic. It's available. So if you are, this way you could look at the books, go online, do a class. There's modules like what Venerable Tendrin is teaching, fantastic. And then you could try to learn how to meditate on emptiness. There's an emptiness meditation on my website you could click into. We could point you to that. And I think it's under the listen tab possibly, but you can find things like that all over the internet. Learn how to do that. And then here's some other wrong views that we hold. That's on an ultimate level, trying to get that direct perception of emptiness. Okay. On other levels, though, we have wrong views as far as dismissing the Dharma entirely. So some people, I've heard people say, you know, His Holiness is always, they're talking, those Buddhists, they're talking about death and impermanence all the time. And I don't think I'm going to die. I think that's garbage. Or, you know, so I don't believe this stuff about karma. I think it's garbage. That would be holding a wrong view. Okay. But it's not the same as being discerning. It's very helpful for you to be discerning. So if you're not sure about karma, and let's say you're not sure about reincarnation, and you simply want to explore that later, I'm going to put it on a shelf for now, I'm not sure, put it over here, rather than thoroughly dismissing it. But I like these parts of the philosophy, so let me go in there for now, delve into that, understand that a little more thoroughly, and then I'll revisit these other things. That's different, being discerning. That's actually healthy. But thoroughly dismissing something would be considered holding a wrong view, like that. So those are the 10 non-virtues and how we might practice ethical conduct. So what I want to look at is how do things ripen? And let me just ask first, where we are right now, does anybody have any questions so far? Anything I've been talking about? So we could either, if you want to put, do we want to put a hand up? Is that helpful? And then we can unmute you. Some of you, I know we don't see you, so let us know or send a chat. We have a chat space as well where you can chat. Everybody okay? I think a lot of us, we repeat these teachings, we go through these teachings a lot. Okay, let's talk about how they ripen. Okay, And what's a neat thing about a karma course, honestly, please, to consider. Oh, now I can see Lamo. Wonderful to see you. Great. Is what motivates you to do something virtuous? And again, and what motivates you when you're not doing something virtuous? So this is a really key part of this particular course, which is How Karma Works, which is a longer module of discovering Buddhism. Thank you, Martha. I'm going to get to your question in a second. But this is, for me, the real fundamental part of this course and in mind training in general. How do you change your mind as a Buddhist? What do I do with my mind? So I mentioned, I think over the weekend in those classes, that now I've noticed the last few years, and we were talking about self-compassion on Sunday, those of you that participated in that. What happens is we're not perfect because we're human beings. So then we make a mistake and we do something wrong. We say something wrong. We think something bad. And then we kind of layer onto ourselves, I shouldn't be thinking that. And then some people make it a little heavier, and I'm a Buddhist and I shouldn't be thinking that. And people get into, and I'm a Mahayana Buddhist and I'm not really living up to that. And I'm not doing my practice, and I'm a lousy daughter and a lousy husband and I'm a bad friend. And over, we're layering up this negativity on ourselves. We become very familiar with that. So that low self-esteem thing that tune starts playing, and we play into it and we stop taking care of ourselves. And just look at right now, people are challenged and they're trying to find creative ways to be inside and to isolate and things like that. And you have time to reflect right now. A lot of people have more time to reflect. So a negative thing that gets going, you could review something in the past week that you did, said, or thought, past month, or a bigger thing that may have happened, okay? And now, instead of getting down on myself, I get curious. Wow, why did I do that? Like, first of all, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do that. That's not any kind of behavior, or why did I say that to that person? That's not exactly manifesting as a Buddhist nun or how I want it, that's not really me in my full manifestation of myself. I don't want to exercise that behavior too much. So why did I do it? So the curiosity first comes in now, not the beating myself up, curiosity. So you need to start looking at what motivated me to think, say, or act in a certain way if it's negative. What was the motivation behind it? Usually it's a self-cherishing thought. Okay, but you yourself need to lead yourself back there to see that for yourself in order to shift it, to see how the self-cherishing thought is holding you hostage again and again and again. It's not just me telling you that. You have to experience it yourself and say, oh yeah, I wanted, her to like me. I wanted him to think I was good at that. I wanted her to, So the curiosity leads me into that, not beating myself up, just space in my mind looking at that and saying, okay. But then the other thing is, look at some of the good things you think, say, and do. And look at what motivates that. What motivates those intentions? Again, cherishing others often, or a more balanced view of the nature of reality. That I'm not holding myself as inherently, concretely, independently existing. That loosens up all the edges to things. So both the self-grasping that comes from having the wrong view and the self-cherishing that gets promoted because of it are the source. But find your way to those yourself. Explore those yourself of what motivated me. When you have time, go back to the cushion. That's when I do my work on my cushion. Why did I say that? What happened? Like that. So I find that really powerful. It's been very powerful for me to start shifting some behavior. And again, please be patient with yourself in the process. Please be patient with yourself. Okay. Let me go to Martha's comment, and then Lamo is next. How do we repair things we've done in the past in relation to karma? We're going to talk about that. Thank you, a little bit later. So hang on, Martha. We're going to get to that in purification. Lamo, can you unmute and then?
By accident. Oops, wait.
Please, go ahead.
Sorry, that hand went up by accident.
Okay, no question. Okay.
Okay, no questions. Hello.
Put a little hand up. I thought that's really interesting. Okay. Great. So very helpful to explore your own motivations, performing positive things versus negative things and things like that. And as you start to look at that process, you might ask yourself, how can we increase and develop the virtuous actions we create? So very helpful, the importance of developing a positive motivation. I find this huge at the beginning of any activity, okay? I like to do certainly at the beginning of the day, and then other activities, I call up the motivation to make sure that my mind is in a more balanced space, in a more balanced place like that. Really helpful for me, okay? And then continuing to the importance of guiding my mind into that positive direction as well. So let's look at how some of the karma, how does it, what's the word I want, how does it ripen? Let's look at the different ways. How do certain things ripen? We have factors. How does non-virtuous karma ripen? Okay, we've got heaviness according to the object, I would say, according to the object. They say it's heavier to do negative things against your parents or a teacher, a guru like that, because that person has done more for you, and the guru especially, and the parents are such objects of veneration because the parents gave us this life, supported us, did all these things for us. The guru is really the one that's helping us find our way to a healthier mind. So they're supposed to be higher objects that we can do positive things with, negative things with, as opposed to a tiny ant, for instance. Like killing the guru is obviously worse than killing an ant, something like that. So I think you can understand that. There's heaviness according to the nature of the non-virtuous action. Heaviness according to the nature. Sadistic killing, obviously, very, very heavy. Very, very heavy. As opposed to telling a white lie because you didn't want to hurt somebody. Very, very different outcome of those as far as basic negative imprints. We have heaviness according to the intention. I got somebody a gift, but it was all about what they thought about me, not just about giving. That has a more negative ramification, as opposed to me telling the white lie to my father because I wanted to prevent him from suffering more, like that. So very good intention with a bit of the tainted negative speech karma, like that. So that's going to have a different outcome, okay? Heaviness according to frequency, we have gossip. You know, we're just used to chattering on about nothing is heavier. That has an issue because of the frequency that we do it with, like that. Heaviness according to the lack of an opponent. So some people have contacted me this past week or so, and they're bored and all that, and they said, yeah, they're streaming YouTube videos. And a lot of people, you know, Netflix is their new best friend, you know, and there's nothing wrong with any of those things, okay? It's just noting the frequency and noting the, they don't have a wish to stop doing it, even though they're noticing that too much watching of things isn't making them happy. And they're getting into a rut. And they'll say, I know I'm in this rut, but they don't have any intention to try to do anything different. They go, no, I'm happy to just keep watching and it's okay, it's keeping me company. But their back hurts now because they're laying in bed all day and they're not active. And so again, if you decide not to apply an antidote, and you're just happy to go on lying, for instance, and I don't really care, that has heaviness according to the frequency like that. So let me talk about how things ripen in a little bit more specific way, more detailed. Let me just grab some of these. Okay. If you look at the 10 non-virtues, each of them, 10 non-virtuous actions, they have 4 components or factors. For the action to be complete, that means to bring a full karmic result, all 4 components must be present. Okay, and these 4 components are the basis or the object of the action. That's number 1. Number 2, the intention, and that's your state of mind. Okay, the state of mind of the person performing the activity. Okay, and the intention has 3 parts. It has a recognition, a motive, and a delusion. Number 3 is the deed, actually performing the action. Number 4, the completion of the action. So again, if any of these 4 components are missing, the action will not be considered complete according to Tibetan Buddhism. Okay, but it still will bring future suffering as far as practiced with the 10 non-virtues. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's just say in relation to the body, if we look at killing, just to give an example. If we look at killing, the basis for this non-virtue of killing, the basis is, again, the basis or object of the action happens to be a living being other than yourself. Other than yourself, okay? The intention, this is the state of mind of the person who's going to do the action, has a recognition, number 1. I recognize unmistakably the person I'm intending to kill, okay? Number 2 is the motive that's part of this intention. I intend to kill them. Number 3 is the delusion. Usually the delusion for any of the 10 non-virtues is one of the 3 poisons or a combination thereof. Ignorance or confusion, anger or hatred, and attachment or desire. 3 poisons, okay? So I could kill somebody out of intense anger. That's one thing that motivates me. I could kill somebody out of incredible attachment. I came home, found my partner in bed with someone else, and out of my attachment to them, killed them. I could kill out of confusion. I didn't really know that it was a bad thing to do. You know, or it could be all 3 of those things operating. So those all make up recognition, motive, and delusion make up intention. That's step number 2, component number 2. Number 3 is the deed. You carry out the killing of the person by some means. And it says that actually you can indirectly carry it out by ordering someone else to do it for you. That would complete this component like that. Number 4 is the completion. And that means the other person or the being dies before you do. So here's an interesting thing about suicide. Steps 1 and 4 are missing. Step 1 is a living being other than yourself. That's not the case in suicide. Step number 4 is the other person or being dies before you do. That's not the case in suicide because you die at the same time. So as a result, 2 steps are missing. So suicide has a tendency of leaving a lesser imprint than hostilely killing another human being, for instance, like that. So if you look at stealing, for instance, just to go through a few more of these, we're not going to go through all the 10 non-virtues, but the basis would be something of value belonging to another. Your intention made up of the recognition. You recognize unmistakably the object to be stolen. The motive, I intend to steal. The delusion, I'm stealing it because I really wanted that thing. Or number 2, out of hatred, I'm stealing it to get back at that person. Number 3, I'm stealing it because I don't think stealing is a bad thing. Like that. So the deed is whatever means you use to steal, you take the object secretly. You don't pay your taxes or a fee that you owe. You misuse donations. You get someone to steal for you. All of those can make up the deed. And number 4 is the completion of stealing is you think that the object now belongs to you. So I had a friend, a roommate years ago. I didn't know, but she, when I wasn't home, she took a book from my bookshelves. I didn't know, had no idea. And then years later, we weren't living together anymore. Years later, I saw her and she mentioned to me and said, oh yeah, I've got that book I have to return to you. I took a book from you. Okay. So she always had this, and she never returned it, but she always had the intention to return it. And because of that, she doesn't have the 4th completed thing, feeling that the object belonged to her. She never felt that way, like that. And in my mind, later, I just offered the book to her because she was very intent about returning it. And then I realized later it never came back, and I went, oh, I'm just happy, I'm happy to let her have that book. So she doesn't get the stealing karma like that. Can I ask you now, of these remaining 8 non-virtues, which one would you like to explore? Let's explore another one of how they go through these 4 components. Anybody have a particular one you want to write it in the chat that you want to explore? Nothing happening for people of sexual misconduct, lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, gossip, covetousness, harmful intent, or holding wrong views. Okay, I'm gonna pick idle gossip, because I think we mess up with that a lot. Okay, the basis in idle gossip, oh here, covetousness and harmful intent. Okay, now they're all coming up. Okay. Okay, harmful intent, first one we got to. Harmful intent, the basis in harmful intent is another being who would be hurt if you acted out your harmful thoughts. Again, another being who would be hurt if you acted out your harmful thoughts. You have harmful thoughts about this person. So it would be that particular person. Here's your intention. The recognition is, I correctly identify the being I wish to harm. The motive is, I wish to give harm to this being. And the delusion, one of the 3 poisons, it could operate through any of those, okay? The deed is, 3rd component, putting more effort into the wish to give harm so it grows stronger. Again, so this is one of the mind, harmful intent. I have the idea in there, I want to get back at them, I want to harm them, I want them to fail, I want them to, you know, things like that. And that wanting them to fail flips a little bit over into covetousness, which somebody else had mentioned. Okay, but again, putting more effort into the wish to give harm so that it grows stronger. The completion is you decide to act out your wish and do something harmful. Because everything comes from the mind. So the thought starts in the mind and then often leads us into opening the mouth and doing something, but then the harmful intent can come, and that can actually cause us, it leaves an imprint in the mind to cause us to harm. That's how strong harmful intent can be. Covetousness. Just look at this for a minute. Covetousness. The basis is another person's property or possessions, okay? Or their qualities, or their children, or their family, or their partner, like that. Possessions could even include the merchandise in a shop, for instance, okay? And your intention is you identify correctly the object you covet, the object that you want. My motive is I want to make the object mine. I want that object. The delusion, one of the three poisons. I want the object because it's really going to upset the person that it belongs to. That's anger. Or I want the object just because I want it. That's desire. Or I want the object because I don't really think it's a big deal to take it. They have three of them. They're not even going to miss it. What's the big deal? The deed is, okay, it's not stealing, not back to the body thing. It's the wish to possess the object, and that wish becomes stronger. I allow that wish to become stronger. The completion in this case is deciding to find a way to make the object mine. So it's very interesting to go through to see what you start to get clear on what motivates me to do certain behavior. So it's really neat to kind of go through these different components. Let's just look at, here's holding wrong views. A couple people have asked about that, and a couple people asked about some of the speech. Holding wrong views is, the basis is something that exists or is true, like the law of cause and effect, karma, the Four Noble Truths, something like that, something around, we're just talking about Dharma right now. The intention is the recognition, you believe that your denial of the truth is correct. I don't believe in karma. That's the truth. Karma doesn't exist. Okay. And you do not recognize that what you're denying is in fact true. My motive is I wish to deny something that exists. And the delusion could be one of the three poisons. So out of anger, because of hating someone who holds a correct view, I deny what he or she says and assert the opposite. Okay, because I don't like them. So whatever they say, they're wrong, even if they're saying the truth. Or I have this experience of denying the truth out of attachment, asserting a wrong view in order to get something that I want, or to impress somebody, or to gain favor with somebody, from somebody in a powerful position. Out of ignorance, you do it, not understanding what is true and what is correct. The deed is thinking about carrying out, denying the object. For example, by telling others what I think. You know, emptiness is garbage, doesn't really mean anything. Everybody lives forever. That's garbage. What the Buddhists teach about reincarnation, that's garbage. That doesn't exist. So out of thinking about carrying that out, for example, and the completion is definitely deciding to deny the object, to deny the truth. That's how it would work with wrong views. But again, it's about more thinking about carrying it out, okay? And I could also tell others what I'm thinking from that space. Let's look at divisive speech. Divisive speech, and this is one we have a lot of trouble with, especially in workplaces. And if you work in, and I don't know if you want to put hands up, I know a lot of people have turned their cameras off because they're probably in their pajamas, right? So cute today. My cousin posts a lot on Facebook, and she's very, very funny. She really should have a comedy show. She has two little girls. So, you know, and shout out to all the moms and dads out there right now who are working at home with little kids at their feet. And I don't know how they do it. So, and taking care of an elderly parent outside of the house right now. I don't know how they're managing. So she's got two kids. She's working at home, she and her husband, and her posts are just hysterical of what's going on. So she took the girls out for a walk today because it was nice out here. She's in the Philadelphia area, and off they go, and I see them, and the kids, and she's saying, and everybody's in, you know, the kids are in their pajamas. This is in the middle of the day. And then, so I piped in and wrote a comment and said, and is mom also in her pajamas out there in the neighborhood, you know? So then she wrote, and she said, business attire from the waist up, sweatpants from the waist down. So some of you may be off your camera. It's okay, I think, sometimes to stay in your pajamas these days. So what I wanted to know is, do any of you work in conflictive work environments? Just put your hand up. Okay, Ken's like, no. Okay, conflictive, we've got Lisa there. Conflictive work environments, people kind of gossiping about each other behind their backs. Anybody have that experience? Yes, we've got some yeses, some hands up, okay. So the cause of that is your own divisive speech. So that's something you can just kind of go back and go, okay, that's what I need to work on then. That's what I need to work on. It could be this life. Buddhists believe in reincarnation, could be past life. So we want to be careful about that. Divisive speech, here's the basis. 2 or more people who have a good or bad relationship. 2 or more people who have a good or bad relationship. The intention, sometimes they call divisive speech slander. It's another way, another kind of expression of it. The intention has a recognition. You must have unmistaken recognition of the parties involved and their relationship and feelings for each other. Okay. The motive is you intend to cause division or disunity. Sometimes that's missing with people. Like sometimes you just come in and you're saying some divisive stuff, but you don't necessarily have that motivation like that. But some people do. The delusion, obviously, one of the 3 poisons. I'm saying this out of anger at my boss who runs the entire business. I really want things to fall apart for them. Or I'm doing it out of desire for people to adhere to my views. I'm right. They should listen to me. Or I'm saying these things because I don't really realize that it's causing disharmony. I'm not, I don't really think it's unhealthy or anything. The deed is, the 3rd component, you undertake either to cause disunity among friends or among coworkers that are in harmony. You basically undertake to rattle the harmony of the situation or to prevent reconciliation among enemies by saying something which is either true or false. It doesn't matter if what you're saying is true or false. It's how does it disturb the parties, especially if they're parties that were getting along. And the completion is the other parties understand what you say, they believe what you say, and as a result, they become hostile towards one another. So that's how divisive speech would play out. And let's just look at one more, harsh speech. The basis is another person whose feelings could be hurt. So, and this is clear because it says we can express insulting words to a non-human or an inanimate object. Some people do that in their frustration, right? But the action is complete only when there's a being who understands and is hurt by our words. So that's a distinction that's made. The intention includes a recognition. You must correctly identify the person you intend to harm or insult with your speech. The motive is you intend to speak insulting words. And the delusion, obviously you can understand how it could operate out of any of the 3 poisons. The deed, with a negative intention, you speak words pointing out faults, etc. in another person, whether it's true or not. You speak in a hurtful manner, or you get someone else to speak such words on your behalf. The completion is the other person understands what is said and is hurt by it. So I think you get an idea of how these play out. Okay. We also have, I want to talk about something called throwing karma and completing karma. Throwing karma is how what rebirth the negative action puts you into, negative or positive action. And the completing karma is how does it finish? And I give an example of those of you that have pets right now, which may be many of you. Some of you may say mantras to your pets and do nice things for your pets and things like that. And so your pet ended up with very, very good throwing karma, throwing them into a positive, bad throwing karma, putting them into the animal realm. So not good throwing karma, throwing them into a lower realm. The animal realm is considered the upper of the lower realms, okay? But very nice completing karma because they came back as a domestic pet in an affluent country and they're very well taken care of, like that. So how that cat life or dog life got lived out is with a lot of comfort and having food and having safety and things like that. Perhaps we could look at a refugee right now in one of our detention centers. We could look at a woman under the Taliban regime in Afghanistan, where, you know, they're human, they got very good throwing karma in a human realm, which is one of the upper realms, but the completion of that is not great. You know, maybe they're poor, maybe they're not having access to education, healthcare, no choice in their lives of what they're able to do. So not the greatest of completing karma. Okay, let me go into, let's see. See if there's any, okay, so one thing I wanted to mention, I'm gonna talk about other ways that karma ripens. I just want to make sure I'm covering everything I wanted to cover tonight. Okay. And how's any other questions out there right now? And please feel free to type something. I'm going to be right back. Okay, thank you. I am back. I wanted to go over some other ways of the ripened result. And so they'll also say how things tend to manifest and how they ripen. So let's look at this. There's different ways that some of the non-virtues can ripen. One is called the ripened result. We've been talking about this a little bit, the ripened result. This is the future rebirth state you'll experience as a result of having created a complete karma. So when I talked about those 4 components, once those are in operation and you've done all of those, this is the future rebirth that they can cause. And sometimes they'll say, for instance, if we're looking at the action of killing, for instance, it may have a ripened result of a hell realm, a lower rebirth, because you've done a really negative deed like that. So we'll look at a little bit of different ways they ripen. They also have something called results similar to the cause, the way karma ripens, results similar to the cause. This has 2 categories under it. Experience is similar to the cause and actions similar to the cause. So experience is similar to the cause means once your karma to be born in a lower realm, this is about conducting the 10 non-virtues, once your karma to be born in a lower realm has been exhausted, and you take rebirth in an upper realm, because that's one way we exhaust the karma. You've done something negative, okay, and you've done something negative, and then it basically results in a lower realm existence. But eventually, through being in that lower realm, because we don't go to hell in Buddhism forever, you go there until you exhaust the causes that got you there, and then generally you move up and out into a better existence. So once you exhaust that, you may end up as a human, okay? But because you maybe killed a lot of people, experiences similar to the cause is you were born in a war-torn country. You're born in a place where medicines do not work effectively for you. You're born and you have a very short life, because that would be results. Experiences similar to the cause of what is shortening your life. Why? Because you took life, you harmed life. Ways it can ripen. Okay, here's actions similar to the cause. Actions similar to the cause. Once your karma to be born in a lower realm is exhausted and you take rebirth in an upper realm, you have the instinctive tendency to commit the original negativity again and again. Okay, so you come back as a human, but you have an instinctive tendency to kill. Did you ever, those of you that have kids, or did you ever see this with young children? And one kid, one kid likes to kill a lot of insects. That was me. I was very comfortable killing a lot of insects as a kid, where other kids are trying to save the lives of insects. Where does it come from? So Buddhism would say it comes from their mind. It's in the seeds are in their mind, and you can see imprints with young children. Some have that tendency, and they're in playing with other kids and they punch another kid, and another kid would never think of punching or harming. So is it from something external that we learn those things, or could it be there's a cause in the mind like that? That's action similar to the cause. We also have environmental results. You're born in a human realm, but you experience results of your actions in the form of environmental conditions. They say with sexual misconduct, it tends to cause you to be born in a dirty, smelly place. Sometimes you could say sexual misconduct, some people might say it's kind of dirty, right? So it creates a cause of you being dirty. I mean, part of an environmental thing, again, with killing could be that you end up, or here's an environmental result of stealing. You take rebirth in a barren landscape where nothing grows. Like that. So you can get a sense of different results of the 10 non-virtues like that. Let me just look at, okay, some of the comments. My dog Olive, and your dog meditates with you. Very nice. Yeah, lucky dog, lucky dog. Okay, the bases of throwing and completing karma are just whichever being you are at that particular person, at that particular point, Melissa. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean by the bases. It could be anything. Like if you're a cat, the basis is an animal rebirth, and you took a low and not great throwing karma. But if you're one of your pets and they have a good life, then they have a good completing karma. So explain a little bit more, if you'd like, about what you mean by the bases. And what would throw you into those things, again, would be based on virtuous or non-virtuous behavior. Okay. Is that?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm not really sure how to operate.
I can hear you now, yeah.
I guess I'm mostly curious about the completing karma. The throwing karma makes sense in terms of seeds from previous lives. Is it the same thing then with the completing karma? So say the throwing karma is positive, but the completing karma is negative. So I have a friend who's a psychiatrist, Ivy League, beautiful, wonderful life, who's now on Rikers Island with being held there for many years. It appears to be a false accusation, very serious. And so it's hard to understand karmically, right? So, and who knows, maybe, this will resolve and she'll get out, but it's curious to me because her throwing karma seemed very positive.
Yes, we have many mixed karmas. And the other thing is there's many poor people in the United States that have been imprisoned just because they didn't have good legal representation and they're innocent. And some of them are in death row and some have been executed. So
Right.
There's a lot of people. And so again, the poverty they had is or probably could be a result of stealing karma, the fact that they ended up as a poor person.
Okay.
A lot of them are African Americans, so the fact that they came back in what some people would identify as not the dominant culture, like that, where they're additionally persecuted, and and then some of them get out. So there's the ripened result of something positive that happened. But all those years imprisoned, things like that, it's going to be a mixed karma of something negative that she's done. So she's got some positive karma, enormously positive karma, and then some really negative karma. What specific things I couldn't say. You need a highly realized mind to determine that.
Of course. Okay, thank you.
And they give you examples in the traditional text. For instance, there was a tremendously deformed man who had an amazing singing voice. Like his voice was angelic and incredible. And they said, and this is written in some of the traditional Lamrim books, when in his previous life, they were making a big stupa, a shrine. And when it was finished, he criticized it and said it was one of the ugliest things he'd ever seen. But then he had a change of heart and decided to offer a beautiful bell to it that it would ring and that they could hang up there. So as a result, they said he turned into, in a future rebirth, came back as extremely deformed and yet had this melodic voice. So again, karma is very intricate, but if you read in some of the detailed Lamrim books, there's details and details of different stories. But in order to understand what is the actual cause of these things, you need a highly realized mind. So the neat thing for me, I have to say, honestly, is having a teacher like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, because if you have a teacher that you feel is highly realized, they are best guiding you if you are choosing to seek their advice from time to time and follow the advice. They are choosing, basically that guidance is, I'd say, streamlining my path to enlightenment, and based on them knowing exactly what's going on with my mind. And I've seen Rinpoche giving people instructions, practices that may seem a lot. And it just always appears to me that there's a huge benefit of some major health issue that was going to arise or something averted. And even from my own experience of things Rinpoche has told me to do that ended up, by my following his advice, some more minor negativity occurred that was so much more manageable rather than, and I give one example is years ago when I was leaving California, moving, I'd lived there about 17 years and I knew I was going to be going in a few months, but I was talking with Rinpoche and I was planning all these teachings and things at the center when I was living there. And Rinpoche kept checking a divination that he does and kept telling me to each month was very bad for me to stay that long. And basically the month I was in, he told me I should leave within the month. My life was in danger. So I wasn't really prepared to leave in a month, my whole life. And I had all these friends to say goodbye. And also I wanted to do these programs for the centers and that had to change. And it was a little bit shocking, but I knew that was it. I had to go and I left within 3 weeks. And during that 3-week period, we had a program in San Francisco and it's about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. And I was driving up with a monk and my car broke down. And it broke down so badly, meaning a disc fell out of the bottom of it, where it stopped abruptly. Had that happened to me on the freeway, it might have caused a really bad accident because the car stopped immediately and I might have been rear-ended and it was hard to know what could have happened. But because I did take Rinpoche's advice seriously and had every intention of leaving within the month, was making those plans, then the car broke down on a little side road, a little mountainside road, no problem. I got easily towed, and that was kind of the end of it. But it really felt to me like something had passed like that. So that's what can be a benefit of having a qualified teacher, you know, somebody like that. So I want to move into what Martha had asked before about what do you do with negative stuff you've done in the past? We purify. We do purification practices. And it's a wonderful thing that we can do purification practices because we've messed up a lot of things, and that's just the nature of being human. It's not that it's a major problem that we have to hold over our heads for all time. These things happen. And the wonderful thing in this tradition is we can do something about it. And different traditions have their different things that they can do. And it's nice to experiment with some of these traditions if it works for you. For instance, many Catholics I know they would go to confession, and then they would recite whatever prayers the priest might give them to do. And so again, you have to explore that and try it and see, does that work for you? How do you feel? Many Catholics feel the grace. They're very happy to do that. We do purification practice often with a practice called the 4 opponent powers. I'll explain in a moment. And we do them in conjunction with perhaps a practice like Vajrasattva. So Vajrasattva is an aspect of the Buddha that helps us with purification, like a crystal light being. The enlightened mind can manifest in many, many different ways. So that just happens to be one manifestation. And what we would do is, some of us have, it's a very short practice to do. You're visualizing Vajrasattva in the space in front of you, and certain visualizations of that, and there might be a little refuge prayer. But these are the 4 opponent powers, and I happen to do them in this order, but they can be done in the first 2, especially in reverse orders. The 4 opponent powers is helpful to do them with, and I like to start with the power of regret. So they all begin with R, if that's helpful to remember. What I'd like to do before I start the practice, I usually do it in the evening, because what I like to do is have a little review of my day in the evening. And right now it's kind of nice because we have more of the day we can practice. But I've been so busy, it's been hard, sometimes. But definitely in the evening, I'm going to get to some evening practice as well if I haven't done it through the day. I've definitely had something in the morning, set up a motivation, done some morning practices. Then you come back to the end of the day and you might think, well, how's it going? Right? So here's the trick for you. Here's the trick. What we are geared to is to know all the stuff I've messed up all day. I'm very focused on that. I know that I said something snippy to somebody and I didn't have enough patience with that person, and I didn't do that today, and I was supposed to call that person, but I didn't really want to call them, and whatever it is, we're very focused on that. What we're not focused on are the good things that we did. So the trick is, the first thing you do is rejoice at the positive activities you did during the day. That you rejoice at the positive activities. That's key. You rejoice in a balanced way. And today, for instance, and now we're isolated, but I called somebody today and they were really struggling, and I was a little bit short on time, but I made 5 extra minutes for them. We had our normal conversation and they needed more time, and I'm like, okay. And I was really happy I could do that for them because they were really struggling. And I went out for a walk today. And I passed some people, and I knew that we were all trying to distance about 6 feet. So I moved over to let them go by with the stroller and the dog, like that, instead of them having to move. And it was easy for me to move out of the way. And then we waved to each other and smiled like that. And so this is a balance thing. I'm not the greatest person on the planet, but I kind of thought, well, even when I passed them, I was like, that's a nice thing to do. That was great. No big deal about it, just balance, and I move on. but I'm at least rejoicing. It's one of the easiest ways to make merit, rejoicing at those positive effects that you can do. Then I'm going to consider what didn't go so well for me today, meaning my mind, not about other people. It's me and my mind. What didn't go so well? And I'm going to, again, review that in a balanced way. I'm not a terrible person, okay? It's just some days the self-cherishing's there and that's what I'm focused on. Okay, no problem. Now I have my Vajrasattva practice. So the first thing I'd like to do is regret, power of regret, the negative thing that I did today, the negative thoughts that I had, the negative thing I said to somebody on the phone, for instance. And just take a moment, take a few moments to really experience that deep sense of regret in your heart. That's the first opponent power. And it's different than guilt because we're going to do something about it now. The 4 opponent powers in Vajrasattva allows us to do something. We're not left with it and then we start ruminating and turning over and over again about it. Second opponent power is the power of refuge. So some of our practices, we have a short refuge prayer you can recite in the Vajrasattva practice. That's nice. And just feeling, if you're visualizing Vajrasattva, a crystal light being in the space in front of you, about 6 inches in height, for instance, facing you, does that represent, like it represents the enlightened mind for me? Is that something I feel to take refuge in that would better protect me from suffering? Like that. So that's something you want to feel from the heart, that space. Okay. And then you've got the third opponent power is my remedy now. So I've got regret, refuge, remedy. And the remedy is I'm now going to do some Vajrasattva mantras with a certain visualization. We're not going to do it right now, but with certain visualization. And there's different visualizations you can learn from the practice. A lot of these practices are online. In fact, I know on my website, there's some sessions of me leading Vajrasattva you can find in either the watch or the listen tabs. So then I'm going to do this Vajrasattva session as long as I can. It's really helpful if you can learn the long mantra slowly over time. If you recite it out loud, usually you'd learn it in a few weeks, like that. And then once you have the long mantra down, then I can focus more on the visualization. But in the meantime, it's okay to do a short mantra, Om Vajrasattva Hong, sometimes while I can focus on the visualization. So I get a sense of what is it like to recite mantras while I'm visualizing something. And these radiant light rays are going through you, and they're helping you purify whatever negativity you're focused on. And in addition, all the negativities of body, speech, and mind. And also subtle obscurations to omniscience. So the fourth opponent power, and then you do as many mantras as you like. We normally try to recite at least 21 of the long mantra or 28 of the short mantra, like that. And the fourth opponent power is the power of resolution. So I am going to resolve and basically to refrain from doing whatever negativity I was focused on. But here's the catch, for a realistic time period. So if I say I'll never get angry again, maybe not likely. But if I say for the first 5 minutes that I see that person that really irritates me, the first 5 minutes that I'm with them, the next time I'm with them, and I'm able to practice patience and not get angry, that's what I'm resolving to do. Okay. And then if you actually keep it, you're really creating, in a sense, this new neural pathway, really making new behavior. Like that, 4 opponent powers. And then at the end of that practice, you would dedicate the merit. So that's some of the things we can do. And here's a question: can purification accelerate the ripening of certain types of negative karma? Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, it can. And I'll give an example. We do need to purify. And sometimes suffering, there's certain views that suffering is seen as a purification. So, but it's, you need to have more experienced Buddhists before you'd say that to them. Like somebody has cancer and you don't want to say, oh, great purification. You know, that's hard for people to hear. But Buddhists can say that to each other. And sometimes we do it on a lighter level. I mentioned to some people on Saturday, I had a sewage clog in my house. I was unaware that there was a clog while I was still running water and all these things. And by the time I noticed in the basement what was happening, there was sewage like halfway across the basement floor. So a friend called at that time, and a Buddhist friend, and I said, yeah, I'm really doing the purification now, like that. So I think there are ways we would see that as purification, the when a negativity, when it's cleaning something out, and it will accelerate. But can you handle the purification? Can you handle the suffering? Like that, we would like it to be manageable. Sometimes it doesn't feel manageable like that. So when I did my Vajrasattva retreat, I did you can do 100,000 of the long mantra. It takes about 2 to 3 months. And I was at Laudo doing that. It's a great place to do retreat. And when you do a Vajrasattva retreat, you are expecting to have some suffering arise, whether it's body sickness or mind sickness or difficulty, challenges. And most people I know that did a Vajrasattva retreat told me about the difficulties they had. So what happened for me was every 2 to 3 days, I had some affliction with some part of my body. And at the 3rd day, when it started to get really bad, where I started thinking, do I need to do something about this? Laudo is a very, very remote place. So there's no medical help in that area. So you're really on your own. And if you really have a problem, it would just be a bit of a difficulty for them to get you out of there and to really do something, but it's possible to do. And so, you know, on the 3rd day, each time I would think, do I need to, you know, send a note down to Rinpoche's sister that I need some help? But then the thing would clear up and it would change. Like I had an infected eye, and then I had an infected ear, and then I had an infected thumb, and then I had an infected toe, and then I got a rash, and then, but it was 3 days. And right when it would get bad, it would clear up and it would go to another part of my body. And then after 3 days, another part of my body. And it just, for 2 months, it moved around my body. But after I was into this for about 2 to 3 weeks, I realized it was the retreat. And that's how I was purifying. So I was actually quite happy to have these little manageable things, provided they didn't get any bigger, to interrupt my retreat. And then I coughed for 2 months. Actually, I had a bad cough for 2 months. And when I finished the mantras, after 2 months, the cough stopped quite abruptly. So there is a way. Here's a question: is suffering purification if you're not acknowledging and dealing with it as? It's the same. I would say it's the same. It is purification and negative karma ripening. I'd say that's really the same, even if you're not aware that it's a type of purification. You are purifying something. You can also purify in dreams. When you have a nightmare, that's also seen as a type of purification. Any disturbance to the mind. But it's nice if we can view it as purification rather than getting angry and hostile and acting out from there, or shutting down, or acting out negative behavior like that. So I think it's helpful to kind of say, okay, this is challenging. Look at our time right now. This is challenging, right? And if it's really disturbing your mind, you're purifying something. That's a good way to look at it. You are purifying something. And for those of us with our kind of lifestyles, which I'd say for the most part are you know, relatively easy compared to a lot of other people on the planet. And we have food, shelter, and clothing for one. I mean, that's fantastic. And we do need some suffering, but it's not that we're not masochists. We're not bringing this on ourselves. It's just that things will come up. And when they come up, how balanced is my mind to deal with it? What I'd like to do in closing is I just want to read this, one of the practices that Rinpoche gave. This is one of the 6 practices I'll be leading. Actually, I'll add His Holiness is in there, the Tara mantras. But when I lead the practice session for New York, the first one again starts Saturday at 1 o'clock, 1 to 1:30. This is one of the practices I'll be leading, and this is the one where we're reciting the Om Mani Padme Hung. And Rinpoche says it's very nice when we recite this and say this prayer that I'm going to recite for you, that we look at this Buddha like that. So I just wanted you to have a visual on this Buddha. And so what I'd like to do in conclusion is just read a little bit from this. And this is called the Vajra speech of Mahasiddha Tangtung Gyalpo, the blessed prayer known as liberating Sakya from disease. And Rinpoche has a brief motivation here. All sentient beings, my mothers who are infinite like space, go for refuge to the precious Guru Buddha. We go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We go for refuge to the assembly of gurus, yidams, and dakinis. We go for refuge to the empty clarity of our own minds, the Dharmakaya. Okay, and then I'm going to chant a little bit of the mantra of the Buddha of Compassion, Om Mani Padme Hung, which in a sense is like, you know, the all of the universe is like a jewel in the lotus of my heart, in a sense like that. And I think the planet really needs this mantra. We're going to imagine this light going out from your heart right now, or also from this special being I just showed you the picture of, that's inseparable from, whoops, what did I do with the practice? Oh, here we go. Inseparable from any teacher or inseparable from His Holiness, like that, going out from his heart, going out to the entire planet. Somebody's taking a photo there. But you can find all of this on the FPMT. Let me see if I can. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about the, I was going to try to put the links in there, but there's a few links. So, but Thupten Khonga Center knows these they have the links to these practices. They can disseminate that to you as well. Or do let us know and we can make sure we get it to you. It might be on the FPMT website. So I'm going to chant a little bit the manis and then we can recite some on our own. Feel free to join in. Om Mani Padme Hung, Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung. I'm just writing the mantra so people can see. Om Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung. Let's just recite a little on your own. Om Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung. Om Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung. Mani Padme Hung, Mani Padme Hung, Mani Padme Hung, Mani Padme Hung. Om Mani Padme Hung, Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung, Om Mani Padme Hung. This is the actual prayer. May all the diseases that sadden the minds of sentient beings, that result from karma and temporary conditions, such as the harms of graha spirits, illnesses, and the bhutas, not occur in the realms of the world. May whatever sufferings there are from life-threatening diseases, that like a butcher leading an animal to be slaughtered, separate the body from the mind in a mere instant, not occur in the realms of the world. May all embodied beings be unharmed by acute, chronic, or other epidemic diseases, the mere sounds of whose names terrifies beings, as though they've been placed inside the mouth of Yama, the Lord of Death. May all embodied beings be unharmed by the 80,000 classes of interferers, the 360 evil spirits that harm suddenly, the 424 diseases, and so forth. May whatever sufferings there are due to disturbances of the four elements, depriving the body and mind of every happiness, be totally pacified. And may the body and mind have radiance and power and be endowed with long life, good health, and well-being. By the compassion of the gurus and the three jewels, by the power of the Dakinis, Dharma protectors and guardians, and by the power of the truth of infallibility of karma and its results, may all these dedications and prayers be fulfilled. So that's actually one of the practices that Rinpoche is encouraging us to do. It's very short. These practices are all very short. And like I said, there's 6 that Rinpoche has given. There's a 1.5 hour video. If you want to stream something, stream that of Rinpoche that we can send you these links. If you want to hold on a minute, I'll try to find this email to see if I can send you one of the links of the practices. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Okay. And this page will have, here we go. I'm going to copy what they are and then see if I can give you the, I'm not sure this is going to, okay, it doesn't copy here. So can I copy any of it? Maybe that was too long. Well, I'm going to copy this video link. And then I'm going to see, let me see if this copies. Okay, that's a video link for Rinpoche. But what I also wanted to do is, okay. Let me see if I can copy this link. It has all the new stuff. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Isn't technology amazing? Okay. There's the other link. Oh, sorry, it's going private. Sorry about that. I got hooked into somebody's private thing. Sorry about that. Okay. This is the link for all the practices. And this is Rinpoche's video. Now it's 1.5 hours. It's Lama Zopa Rinpoche style. Oops, did that come out? No, sorry. Let me give you this link again. It's not copying. Okay, wait, come on. There you go. Okay, yeah, there, sorry, I'm separating. The bottom is a separate link. I sent it twice. Okay. So it's Lama Zopa Rinpoche style, but what he does is he's giving you the oral transmission of some of these mantras and practices, and it makes it stronger for you when you do them. So what you have to do is, he says, listen attentively. If you want to get the lung, lung just means in Tibetan, oral transmission. That's how we get a lot of our teachings, from ear whispered, from their mouth to our ears. Now, if you want to do that, you'll have a guru-disciple relationship with Rinpoche. If you don't want to do that, and that just means you'd be taking him as a teacher and you'd want to follow his advice when you can and like that. If you don't want to do that, you can just listen to them anyway without the intention of taking them as an oral transmission. That's fine. So both are fine, but I just wanted to give you those resources if you like that. And this way, if you want to do the practices with us on Saturday and Wednesday, we're going to try for a couple of weeks. You can download the practices pretty easily and have those ready, or we'll make them available when we do the live stream, the Zoom from New York. It is East Coast time, so it's easy for us. I hope you can join. And I'd like to dedicate in closing, and somebody had asked a question, the 4 opponent powers, again, it's the order I did them in was regret, refuge, remedy, and resolution, like that. And I'd like to take any merit and any positive energy we've created from our time together. Thank you so much for coming. Please stay healthy. I'd like to dedicate to that for all of us. Please be creative in remaining calm and buoyant, because people around you need that. That's a service we can offer to others. But one of the best ways I find to do that is meditate, do some practice. It really has helped keep me very focused and balanced. I can't recommend it enough. Find your way into a certain practice, whatever practice works for you. And may it really benefit our hearts and minds, leading us to swift enlightenment, because so many beings need our help, particularly now. And may we be able to serve unlimitedly all living beings. Thank you very much. Any last comments or anything? Okay. And one last thing I did want to say, sorry. Wonderful, great. Rebecca has a thing right after me, but I did want to say, and some of you have heard me say this before, I'm probably going to say it each time, please. I don't need offerings right now. I would really prefer, please support Thupten Khunga Center, who is the host for this, or your local center. But our centers are struggling. They're closed. That's made it challenging. You guys, it's been beautiful to see 32 people here tonight. Okay, some centers have lost half of their attendance by going on to Zoom. I don't know why, I don't know what's happening, but you guys have stayed strong, and I really commend you for that. And I know that there's not just people with Thupten Khunga here, but fantastic to Thupten Khunga for offering. So think about the money you're saving right now, okay, by not driving your car. If you have a car and you're not driving, think of the money that you're saving. That's a donation you could make to Thupten Khunga Center. They have ways you can do that on their website, and it's very easy. This is their website right there. So, oh, sorry, it's keeps showing up private to me. Wait, sorry about that. Here we go. There we go. Oh, Thupten Khunga Ling, sorry. There's a Ling on the end, sorry about that, I didn't realize. Okay, thank you. Take Rebecca's message to everyone, Thupten Khunga Ling, and that's a way, so really think about that, because if 30 people, decided to give $50, that's a huge help for the center right now. So maybe you can't do 50 like that. And I'd also like to give a shout out to our healthcare workers, one of which is here, Lisa, Elizabeth Mitchell, she's waving her hand. There's probably some other healthcare workers out there as well. I see a couple people waving to each other from our pilgrimage, Ken and Lisa. So these are people that are right on the front lines. Fantastic, thank you for being there for everybody, for what you're doing. Incredibly difficult work right now, especially because places are running out of their different materials that they need and stuff, which is really kind of tragic like that. So, so Rebecca has something she'd like to say. I'm going to sign off, and I'd like to say thank you so much. We're looking at, or maybe I'll stay, because she's looking for topics. We're looking to continue future Zooms right now to support people. So Rebecca, do you want to take it over there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, thank you everyone so much for tuning in this evening. And Nicole and I have been talking about it, and unbeknownst to Venerable Amy, we've been talking about her participating more. but yes, thank you. And we already have got someone who is going to be doing a leading meditation for us regularly for a few weeks. And we want to do, it'll be a very intro level type of meditation. Maybe you know people in your other sphere of influence. I've just found that talking to people in my, my non-Buddhist people, that when I mention something about meditation or a Buddhist, they're like, oh, really? I'd be interested in that. So at the beginning of next week, we'll have something go out about what we're going to be doing with that. It'll just be like an hour, maybe 15 minutes of sort of what meditation is, and then a 30-minute meditation, and then there can be question and answer if you want to stick around for that. So if you're into that, we'd love to have you do that. If you feel like you know some people that maybe aren't Buddhist and they might be interested, you can share the link with them. But what we'd like to know is what you are interested in doing and what times work for you. I know a lot of people are not working, but there are some people that are still have to stick to a work schedule, even if they're working from home. So I am going to put my email, which is spc@tuptenkungaling.org, and I am putting that up here. You're welcome to email me. And another thing, like we have Venerable Amy here. We're so fortunate. It worked out that she was totally on board with doing the Zoom with us in spite of not being able to be here in person. But you'll see, we have, when you register, it does show a donation, recommended donation price. And we don't want anyone to feel like, oh, I'd really like to do all of them, but I can't afford it. And there's no shame or anything. If you just email Nicole or me, we'll get you access, and that goes for any of the teachings. We debated about what we wanted to do going forward with that, but because we do need funds to keep everything running, we decided to leave it, but to be really open with, if it's a problem for anyone, to please just let us know, because we want you to get all the Dharma. The Dharma's free. Unfortunately, getting it to you isn't always free. So just please don't not participate in something because of money. You can, if it says suggested $20, you can do $5 if you can. If you can't do anything, that's fine too. Or if you're lucky enough to be in a position where you don't feel $20 at all, maybe you kick in an extra 20 for the person who can't afford it. So that's my infomercial. And then I love it. Nicole's putting up all kinds of links and emails. Just let us know what you want and when you want it, and we're going to work to try and deliver it.
Okay, so also tuptenkunga.org, just to be clear, that does work as well. And I find I can't access you through tuptenkungaling.org. It doesn't come up. So just so it might be different for different browsers, but you can also get there from Tuptenkunga.
It has an H, Venerable Amy. The Tuptenkungaling, we went back to what Rinpoche originally named it. So the Tuptenkunga without the H, it was just felt at the time that people may not be able to deal with that or whatever.
Yes, so okay, now I see that there is the H in one of the versions. Okay.
Correct. The newer one is what Rinpoche originally wrote on a napkin that he wanted the center to be called.
I see. Got it. Okay. Now I see it does come up. Yeah. Okay. It comes up both ways. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, fantastic. So anyway, I think it's wonderful what you're doing is not to turn people away. And for Lisa to know, they mentioned also healthcare workers are for free, obviously come. So yeah, wonderful. Anything else anybody wants to say? Okay. I am going to
be healthy, everybody. Stay strong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please stay well. and take care of yourselves. And I don't know, and those of you in Florida, I would recommend staying home. You know, the rest of us are doing it, and they're finding that people that are not doing it, there's huge spikes in transmission of the COVID virus. So you might want to think about that, even if your officials haven't gotten there yet. They're going to be there in a few days, I think. And I don't know, Lisa, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Just be kind to one another.
Because she's a healthcare worker, so that's why I was wondering if she's heard some things about Florida and stuff. Anyway, thank you so much. And Saturday and Sunday, I'm back from 10 a.m. to noon. So hope to see some of you then. Or please pass the word if there's some other people you think might benefit like that. Different topics, different subjects. Enjoy.